What's up, y'all? This is Alex from the Rim Review. The Rim Review is a page that offers in-depth player analysis and gives nuance to the way you watch basketball. In this series, we're going to be covering every single prospect in the upcoming NBA draft. Some of which you may already know, however, there are going to be numerous hidden gems we explore in the coming weeks. In today's episode, we're going to be exploring a lesser-known prospect, the 6'6 shooter out of Washington State, Jaylen Wells. There are a variety of different offensive strengths to look at when exploring Jaylen Wells' game. The first of which is shooting. Wells was an absolute sniper this season, where he shot 41.9% from beyond the arc. What makes that number even more impressive than the already staggering shooting percentage is the fact that he very frequently would take deeper NBA range threes and took a lot of threes shooting off of movement. When looking at his second biggest strength, I would say it's coming off of dribble handoffs. He did a really nice job this season coming off DHOs and having a nice quick release to get threes out of that, which is a big reason why he averaged 1.143 points per possession on dribble handoff plays. While once again this relates to shooting, he's a very much a spot-up player, and he did a very nice job using dribble handoffs to his advantage. Finally, I would say his general off-ball movement is elite, as he has a really good instinct of knowing when to relocate, when to drift to the corner, and to do a variety of other things to help himself get more open. That's a big reason why he averaged 1.377 points per possession on spot-up plays. Jaylen Wells is always moving, and when you're able to give him a little bit of space, his shot is money. There are a variety of offensive weaknesses to Wells' game that need to be addressed. The first of which is his ability to settle. Wells does not have the deepest bag and is not the quickest player, so a lot of the times when he tries to drive, instead of getting to the cup, he often will settle for a mid-range jump shot, and frequently that shot is contested. Secondly, he's really not great when it comes to attacking closeouts. Wells will try to rip through, but at times he just doesn't have that explosiveness to truly blow by guys and get to the rim. And finally, when he is able to get to the rim, he leaves a lot to be desired. Jaylen Wells ranked in the 12th percentile on points per possession on layups in all of college basketball. That's a really strong pointer showcasing his lack of ability to get downhill, get to the cup, and how much he's clearly bothered by physicality from bigs when he's driving. Now let's get into the film and watch Jaylen Wells play. On this possession, Washington State's going to have the ball in transition. Wells calls for the ball and flows into a nice three-point shot. What's great to see here is that he's calling for it maybe a little too deep, but it shows you his confidence to shoot the three in transition. That's an NBA range three off movement, and he makes it look easy. On this possession, Jaylen Wells does an awesome job sprinting to the corner in transition. As you see, he gets a wide open three because of it and knocks it down. What's great to see is him having the instincts to run to the corner. The reason why you run to the corner right here is the fact that the defense is very occupied with building a wall and having this guy pick up the ball. This defender right here feels as if he's attached to this man, but it's this man's job to get back and protect the rim and make sure no one gets there. That's why NBA teams will always tell their shooters to go to the corner, because no one really thinks about this man over here. And as you see, when he gets the ball, number one on Drake is late coming, and he gets a nice three and knocks it down. Now let's look at Jaylen Wells in dribble handoff situations. Right here, Wells is on the wing. However, he's moving and is ready to come off the DHO right here, where he takes a dribble and knocks down a deep three. He's able to have a nice release and showcase his shooting ability off of movement. On this play, Washington State is running a zoom action, which is when this screen occurs into the dribble handoff right here. So Wells comes off the zoom and knocks down a really pretty looking shot. On this possession, it's once again another dribble handoff for Jaylen Wells. He's first moving to the corner to give space for this empty ball screen. However, when nothing happens there, Wells comes across and takes a three. While this three doesn't go in, I like Wells getting set, and the shot looked good. It just didn't fall. Now let's see a little bit of Jaylen Wells trying to create for himself, or on this possession in the pick and roll. Right here, Jaylen Wells is calling for this drag screen in transition. However, Wells refuses the screen and tries to get downhill. Unfortunately, as you saw right there, he's very much out of control and doesn't have the bag or confidence to go at this center, and it leads to a miss. On this possession, it's another opportunity for Wells to score in the pick and roll. However, it leaves a lot to be desired. Here, he refuses again, but once again, he's not able to truly get by his man, and it just leads to an awkward, tough shot. For him to become a better player that you're going to want to give consistent minutes to in the NBA, I would like to see Jaylen Wells become a much better finisher at the rim. Right here, he has an awesome job refusing and completely gets by Cody Williams. However, he's bothered and off balance and has a very soft finish. On this possession, it's another pick and roll opportunity for Jaylen Wells. Right here, Wells is on the wing, and it's going to flow in to what most people would call an empty ball screen because there's nobody over here. Wells takes the screen, but he settles for this mid-range shot. I'd like to see Wells maybe take another dribble, although it's hard because the 45 on Washington State is really hurting him by trying to kind of just clog the nail. But I don't like long mid-range jump shots, and they're never really an effective shot, even for people who are really good at them. On this possession, we're once again going to see Jaylen Wells in the pick and roll. Right here, Wells is going to get another empty ball screen, and he does a nice job pulling a confident three. What I love seeing here is as soon as he recognizes that this man right here is in drop, it's Wells' sole priority to ensure that this guy gets clipped right here, and as soon as he's clipped, Wells is taking the three, and he knocks it down. On this possession, it's another three-point opportunity for Jaylen Wells. He starts off right here on the wing, and then calls for the screen, and knocks it down as soon as the miscommunication occurs. I really like seeing how confident he is, and this is how he scores off a ball screen. He's not going to use a screen to get to the rim, but he likes shooting threes. Right here, he calls for another screen. However, I don't love this shot as much. The first reason behind that is that he has this pocket pass right here if he wants, and he can lead it to this guy, which would force three to come over, and then you could have Rice come down to the corner, maybe cut, and you can have a 2-on-1. I also don't like the fact that he steps back here, as it doesn't create extra separation and just makes the shot harder. Now let's watch Wells as a more spot-up catch-and-shoot guy. On this possession, Wells takes an extremely deep three, yet still knocks it down. As I mentioned earlier, he's got some elite range, and it leads to a lot of shots, such as this one right here, where he buries another deep three. This is really impressive to see because, as I mentioned earlier, he shot 42% from three, or 41.9% if we're being specific. But he was able to do that while taking tougher looks, and then that time he just made a simple one. On this possession, Jaylen Wells is once again going to showcase some movement off the ball. Right here, as this post-up occurs, this defender from Rhode Island is going to stunt at the ball. When that stunt happens, Wells is drifting to the corner to get more open, and we'll see the end result here. He drifts and knocks it down. On this possession, Jaylen Wells is ready to shoot on this offensive rebound opportunity. He comes back to the corner and hits a huge three against Arizona. On this possession, we're once again going to see Jaylen Wells in a spot-up situation. Right here, Jaylen Wells is starting in the corner. However, he's ready to shoot and has a quick release. While this one doesn't fall, I love his confidence taking a three with his man right on him, and it looks like a quick release. I don't think his shot is necessarily the most stereotypical release for a great shooter, but it's quick, and that's enough for me. Right here, what I don't like seeing is the fact that the defender makes him lean a little bit. As you see right here, you can almost draw this line, and his back's not straight. I think that's something he does every once in a while, and I do think it's part of the reason why he misses when he does miss. And so I think an NBA shooting coach could help him eliminate that lean. On this possession, Jaylen Wells is going to attack a closeout. However, I hate to see him take this shot. He's trying to get by Kylan Boswell. However, he's clearly bothered by the presence of Oumar Ballo right here. I'd like to see Wells be a little more under control, maybe make another move. Maybe you could try to snake it initially, or you can jab this way, and if you're so worried about Ballo, go the other way, and then maybe you have some kick opportunities. But he really dribbles himself into a corner here and takes an awkward and bad floater. Right here against Arizona again, it's going to be another poor opportunity for Wells. In isolation here, he tries to drive by. However, his pickup point is way too high as he's starting his Euro step just to step in from the three-point line, and it doesn't go in. Now, let's finish off with watching some more of Jaylen Wells in isolation. Right here, Wells is trying to get by his man, but doesn't create anything and takes a bad shot. It does go in, but it doesn't change the fact that that's not a winning recipe for success. On this possession, Jaylen Wells is once again going to have the ball in isolation. I actually liked his initial move here as he's able to beat his guy with this little shimmy. However, the gap right here, this man swiping at the ball, clearly bothered Wells, and it forced an early pickup when I think he could have done a better job getting downhill. On this possession, Wells is once again going to have the ball in isolation. He calls for a screen here and now has a switch, but really takes the long two, which is not the shot you want against a switch. If you have a mismatch and are quicker than your guy, go downhill, or you can maybe dribble this way and then hit the post up where there's a post mismatch. There's a lot you can do, but a contested off dribble long mid-range is the worst shot in basketball. On this possession, Wells is once again going to be playing in isolation. Right here, he does a nice job dribbling in and takes a nice off the dribble three. As you see, off the dribble threes are better than off the dribble non-rim twos. On this play, Jaylen Wells is going to get the ball, and he first calls for a screen and now has Tristan da Silva switched onto him, but he doesn't have any separation and can't take advantage of a switch. He tries to get downhill, but he just doesn't have much and settles for an awkward step through. On this final offensive clip of Jaylen Wells, he once again is going to get the ball in isolation. Right here, he's trying to create something, but he doesn't get by his man with his move and settles for a contested three. Now that we've talked about Jaylen Wells' offense, let's move on to his game defensively. His first strength defensively is the fact that he's a very engaged on-ball defender. He only gave up .545 points per possession in isolation, and a big reason behind that is the fact that he was engaged, competing, and just fighting in driving line situations. Secondly, Wells has a really good size at 6'6" with a decent wingspan that allows him to have more length to bother his man than other people who would potentially be playing the two position. Finally, he just makes winning plays. He hustles. I saw him draw multiple charges when watching film for this, and he just seems to compete, especially when he's on the ball and he's engaged. If he's engaged, he's a winner, and I like to see that defensively. There are still some pretty big defensive weaknesses to Wells' game. The first of which is I would say he has poor to average pick and roll screen navigation. I think he gets clipped a lot and could definitely use putting some more muscle so he can have strength to better bully through ball screens. Secondly, he really struggles to fight through off-ball screens as well. Sometimes he's caught ball watching a lot, and when he's caught ball watching, he'll get hit by a stagger or down screen that will completely take him out of the play. Finally, he really loses his man off ball a lot, which once again goes back to his tendency to ball watch. What I hate to see there is even though he ball watches a lot, he only had about 18 or 19 steals last season, which is not what you would expect for someone who's ball watching as much as Wells is. Sometimes he's just watching the ball without actually making any sort of attempts to make a play. And one last thing I would like to note when talking about Wells defensively is the fact that Washington State ran a couple of junk zone actions throughout the season, so Wells doesn't have as much experience in a man-to-man defense that you see more and more often in the NBA. While there are some teams that can run a zone really well in the NBA, 9 out of 10 times when you're watching an NBA game, you're going to see a team in man, so I hate seeing a college player that still is familiar with man, but doesn't have as much experience with it as far as the spacing, how you want to be in the gaps, and just learning man principles, as well as somebody that comes from a school that exclusively plays man. I think that there's nothing wrong with playing a zone in college. However, I do think it hurts Wells here a little bit defensively. Now, let's get into the film and watch Jaylen Wells defensively. On this possession, Wells is going to switch, and now he's guarding off the ball. Then the ball is given to his man in the corner, and the first thing I like seeing from Wells is him having a good closeout, sliding his feet, and being fully engaged. Then he contests without fouling, leading to a miss. Really engaged in solid defense from Jaylen Wells. On this possession, Jaylen Wells is guarding the ball, and then navigates through a ball screen and has good driving line defense. What I love seeing at the end is the fact that he has both of his hands up and contests without fouling. On this possession, it's another driving line opportunity for Jaylen Wells. Wells' man has the ball here, and as you see, Wells starts off guarding with his chest. He makes multiple impacts, and it leads to a charge. Because Wells right here is really bodying up, playing with his chest, it very clearly frustrates the Washington player, and he then pushes off. Wells is being a pest defensively on this possession, and it's just great stuff. Right here, Washington State's starting off with their matchup zone, as the zone now turns to man. Jaylen Wells is guarding Tyson from California, and then he does an awesome job staying with him and absorbing a charge. These are the types of winning plays that scouts love to see. On this possession, Jaylen Wells is once again in a driving line spot. Right here, he's guarding the ball with 5 seconds on the shot clock. He's being really engaged initially, and his man does beat him with a tough shot, but I like seeing him being engaged to start. Now we're going to see a ball screen that Wells is involved in, and he starts off doing a really nice job handling the refuse and staying in front of his man. On this possession, Jaylen Wells is once again involved in a ball screen. Right here, as this DHO occurs, Wells gets clipped right here. However, he recovers and is able to get a contest without fouling. On this possession, it's another instance of Jaylen Wells guarding a screen. Right here, in this pistol action ran by Washington, Wells is immediately going under the screen and gets buried, and it leads to a wide open look. He gets very lucky that that three was missed, and that's not the shot that you want to take. Right here, Jaylen Wells once again is clipped by a screen and goes under. If you're going to go under, it's a good thing to go under at the last minute, but honestly, there's so much room for him to bully over this ball screen that that's probably the better call, and he once again gets lucky with a miss. These are uncontested three-pointers that he's giving up here. On this play, Jaylen Wells is once again guarding a ball screen. He's clipped, and here it forces a switch, and it allows the Arizona guard to get downhill. Right here, Jaylen Wells is guarding Pelle Larsson, and then now he switches on to Kylan Boswell, but look at this, the screen completely takes him out of the play, and Wells is on the floor during Boswell's drive. Now, let's watch Jaylen Wells be involved in some off-screen plays. Right here, he honestly just gets buried. He's caught watching Tristan da Silva with the ball, and Eddie Lampkin is able to set really just a non-existent screen, and it leads to a wide open three. On this possession, Jaylen Wells is once again going to have to play off-ball defense. When his man passes the ball here, Wells' first instinct is to just look at the ball, but he's not really doing anything. And then he assumes that this man is cutting because he's not looking. And then he's able to bump back and get a three-point attempt. On this final clip, we do see a flash of what him looking at the ball so much could lead to. Is Jaylen Wells is going to do a nice job here playing off the ball. Right here, Wells shoots the gap, is able to avoid this screen, and get a nice steal. Jaylen Wells has the potential to be a really solid role player in the NBA. With his frame and shooting and good on-ball defense, it gets a lot of scouts excited about a potential role player off the bench. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of things he's going to have to work on. For me, my biggest thing is being able to at least become a competent finisher at the rim. If he's able to do this and become better at attacking closeouts, all of a sudden it revolutionizes his game. However, right now, teams can easily run Wells off the line, and once Wells is off the line, he's kind of a deer in headlights, and it leads to some bad decision making, settling for bad shots, and if he gets to the rim, it's not a good recipe for success. As far as what his career could look like, I would say that his ceiling, as far as most likely outcome, could be like a sixth or, not really sixth, probably seventh or eighth man, coming off the bench, providing great shooting that you can put in, maybe even put in at the end of the game if you need a bucket, that could also become a driving line stopper. I really like that potential, and in that world, I think Wells would just have to become decent at attacking closeouts, and all of a sudden, we're looking at somebody that's going to bounce around to a couple of different NBA teams, but have a very long career, and it's somebody that a contender would always not mind picking up. What I think a more realistic outcome is for Wells is probably being closer to a 10th or 11th man that is pretty much solely on his roster because of his shooting. I do think that his shooting is enough to keep him in the NBA for some time, and teams will probably work to develop him and get him into more of a player that you can put in the everyday rotation. However, there are still so many talented players in the NBA, and it's hard to get on the court by shooting alone. I'd like to see him accompany that shooting with some solid driving line defense and be a little bit of a better defender off the ball. As far as what his floor is, I could see him not making the NBA at all or being washed out within a year, and what I think could cause that is bad off-ball tendencies, not being the most physical when fighting through screens, and also just having no bag outside of shooting. It's very hard for a team to take you in when you literally struggle to finish on layups, and I think it would require a lot of work for a team, and he's definitely going to have to spend a lot of the time in his rookie year in the G League. As far as where I would draft him, I probably wouldn't take a shot on him. Maybe I pick him with one of the last few picks in the second round. But in my opinion, I think Wells is probably going to go undrafted. However, I do think he has a very good chance to snag a two-way contract. With his size and shooting, he does offer a promise that a lot of teams won't get with the normal undrafted free agent. I think if you get him with a two-way contract, you can maybe give him like a 2-year two-way deal. So you have 2 years to work with him, you give him time in the G League, and maybe he develops the skills to become a really solid role player. And if he doesn't, you don't risk that much, as you're really just giving up one of your two-way spots. Overall, that's my take, and we'll be back at it again tomorrow with another episode of The Rim Review.